Welcome team ID 19.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Hello, okay, I think everyone's almost online. Okay.
Where are you all calling in from?
Priya and I are calling in from Thailand, and Anish and Sierra are from India.
Okay.
Okay, so do we start or?
Go ahead.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is Sonam and we're Team 19. To begin our presentation, I'll introduce the problems we've identified and summarize our target industries and recommendations. Sierra will explain the market analysis, Anish will detail the business plan, and finally, Priya will present the potential partnerships. ACSL is a drone manufacturer based in Japan, and though they hold the largest share of the drone market within their home country, their international share is still relatively small. Hence, they intend to expand overseas while also maintaining a focus on increasing productivity, replacing dangerous, low-value added operations, and creating positive social change. Next slide, please. Sorry, previous slide. Okay, so for our problem diagnosis, we've identified 6 issues that ACSL might face during their expansion into the international drone market and have attempted to address them throughout the presentation. First, the drone market is an oligopoly, which means that ACSL will find the market difficult to enter because of natural barriers to entry. The next issue is low profit margins. Since ACSL's niche is custom-made drones and advanced technology, we have to rule out markets with low margins of profit in order to maintain this unique selling point. Additionally, ACSL must avoid saturated markets within the drone industry, such as filming and commercial drone use industries, which mean high competition and lower prices. And as stated before, this doesn't suit ACSL. Protectionist policies and drone regulations were also taken into account. Competing against heavily subsidized local firms or marketing in a country with tight drone legislation would make it hard for ACSL to enter the market. Lastly, our 6th issue is operative capability. If the country we target doesn't have the available skilled labor to operate the drones, they will be less likely to purchase and use the technology ACSL has to offer. Next slide, please. The 3 industries we have selected are the agriculture industry, marine industry, and urban planning/construction industry. Within the agriculture industry, the drones can carry out a variety of tasks pertaining to the surveillance and inspection of crops, as manual inspection and maintenance is time-consuming. This addresses ACSL's targets of increasing productivity and reducing low-value added operations. Within the marine industry, the growing amount of plastic in the ocean is becoming an alarming threat, and we recommend that ACSL enters the ocean waste management sector. This achieves ACSL's social impact target. And ACSL could also focus on inspecting offshore infrastructure like wind farms and subsea cabling and pipes, since they already specialize in infrastructure management. For the urban planning and construction industries, partnering with architectural firms to plan and design land use or to assess the structural integrity of buildings would be ideal for ACSL, as they already possess the technology to carry out such operations, such as 3D image capture and unmanned flight. This will increase productivity and reduce the need for dangerous tasks. Now I'll hand it over to Sirat, who'll go over the details of the market analysis.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So adding on to what Sonam just said, even though the agriculture industry lacks partners with large income, it is highly capital intensive in countries such as Canada, USA, and New Zealand, which makes it an ideal market for technologies like drones. It also aligns with companies' objectives of sustainability. Thus, the competition in the market is low since the drone agricultural drone industry is relatively.
I'm sorry, your audio, I couldn't hear you. It was breaking up. Can you try talking again?
Am I audible now?
Okay, I can hear you now. Before I don't know if it was just me, but it was just breaking up before. So can you start over? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So adding on to what Sonam just mentioned, even though the agriculture.
Sorry, can I just cut in? We also have to change the slide, please. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. So even though the agriculture industry lacks variety of partners with large income, it is highly capital intensive in countries such as Canada, USA, and New Zealand, which is an ideal market for advanced technology like drones. It also aligns with the company's objective of sustainability. Plus, the competition is low since the agricultural drone market is still new. Further, in the marine industry, although the market is relatively young, there are only a few potential clients with comparatively low income, but it is expected to grow substantially in countries like Finland, USA, and Canada in the upcoming years because of the growing demand in sustainable technology all around the world.
Is
The
it
urban
just
industry.
my side? But Sirat, you keep on breaking up. I'm not sure what you just said. Are you guys also, are you hearing her clearly, or is it just myself?
It's breaking up a little bit.
Would it be possible maybe another presenter from the team to do it? We really, it was so sorry about this. The audio was just not the greatest condition.
Okay, then Priya, would you mind presenting? Because you kind of did this slide as well, right?
All right. Should I start from the top of where Sirat started?
That'd be helpful, yes.
Yeah. Can we also please move on to the next slide? Okay, so adding on to what Sona mentioned earlier when she was talking about the different potential markets, we believe that even though the agriculture industry may lack a variety of partners with large income, it is still highly capital intensive in countries such as Canada, US, and New Zealand, which makes it an ideal market for advanced technology like drones. It also aligns with the company's objective to try and promote sustainability, plus the competition is low since the agriculture drone market is still relatively new. Furthermore, in the marine industry, although the market is relatively young, there are only a few potential clients with comparatively low income. It is expected to grow substantially in countries like Finland, US, and Canada in the upcoming years because of the rising demand in sustainable technology worldwide. The urban planning industry, on the other hand, is much more competitive, but it is also very large and capital intensive, with many potential partnerships and high demand in areas like Singapore, Ireland, and North America. Could we move on to the next slide, please? So how exactly did we decide which countries we believe ACSL should enter? Through our research, we observed that the Asian, North American, and European drone markets were the fastest growing and decided on suitable industries based on the customizations ACSLs can make to the drones. Next, we simulated the data by reviewing country-specific drone regulations in both visual line of sight and operations and beyond, according to the specific functions in each industry. Moreover, we calculated the acquisition rates, which roughly estimates around $1,200 million in the next 5 years, on the basis of ACSL's current acquisition rate in the markets. Can we move on to the next slide, please?
So now that we have the market and countries clear, here's the competition analysis and differentiation. The construction, planning, aerial mapping sector is highly competitive. The unmanned aerial vehicles and AI image analysis, particularly in the agriculture sector, has decent competition like DJI, 3DR Robotics, Kespri, Dell Air, etc. But one of the most untapped markets is that of the inspection of ocean machinery, like pipeline management system, sewer integrity management system, etc. Now, the negative point of ACSL drone is the cost. There are many competitors that sell similar services with low-cost drones like DJI, 3D Robotics. But the differentiating factor of ACSL drones is quality and customizability. There are very few drones in the market that are as customizable like the PF2 drone and the mini drone. So as you can see in the chart, all we have to do is try to reduce the cost of PF2 drone and mini drone to be at the topmost competition. Next slide, please. So for the expansion strategy, we divided it into 4 parts. Number 1, to enter the market, ACSL can set up booths in tech expos and trade shows. These normally have a conversion rate of 9 to 10% so that they can get their initial potential clients. Then a low-cost proof of concept can be provided so the potential clients can get an idea of how the drones can be applied in their machinery. Third, an affordable solution can be given to first 2 or 3 clients so that they gain the initial reputation. And finally, they can partner up with local drone manufacturers and other companies to take their expansion to the next level. Now, I would like to call upon Priya, who can explain further on this. Next slide, please.
In order to help ACSL break into these new industries, we recommend that ACSL partner with already successful companies. For example, the Ocean Cleanup, which is a multi-million-dollar company that focuses on marine waste management. Their primary aim is to clean up 90% of the world's ocean plastic pollution through systems of these long C-shaped pipes which take advantage of ocean currents to trap plastic. However, these systems often sustain minor fractures caused by ocean currents. This is where ACSL's drones can come in and help inspect, and identify these problems. Meanwhile, ACSL can also partner with Ceres, which helps farmers fully utilize land space by providing drones which analyze plots of land. This will allow Ceres to give more insightful advice to farmers. Similarly, the Skidmore, Owings and Merrill Group is an architectural firm that focuses on planning spaces efficiently. They could employ ACSL's drones to analyze their available space. Moreover, SLM's large income could make this partnership even more feasible. Could we please move on to the next slide? We have also decided to construct a 4-year plan for ACSL to potentially enter all 3 markets. During the first year, ACSL can venture into the agriculture market in the US or the urban planning market in Singapore due to their existing reputation within these regions. Then, since ACSL would have expanded into the agriculture market, exploring this market's potential in Canada and New Zealand could be more feasible. In the 3rd year, ACSL can enter the marine industry, partnering with companies like the Ocean Cleanup and using their drones' existing analysis capabilities to monitor existing structures. Lastly, ACSL can expand into Finland's marine industry and urban planning industry in Ireland. Next slide, please. Mindful of the current pandemic, we also want to acknowledge any issues that may restrict ACSL's expansion. With COVID-19, financial investments in advanced capital-intensive products like drones may decrease, making the development of new technology more difficult. To combat this, ACSL should analyze the customer's requirements and financial capabilities to adopt specific consumer-friendly pricing strategies. Moreover, COVID-19 may reduce ACSL's cash flow. However, by rebudgeting and continuing production whilst adhering to government precautions, ACSL can avoid this. Furthermore, continuing to implement flexible work arrangements, employees can still work long hours to maintain ACSL's existing productivity. Lastly, strains in the supply chain may cause delays, making it necessary for ACSL to find alternative supply sources. We recommend focusing on local sources so ACSL can avoid these new pandemic restrictions and transport costs. If outsourcing materials is necessary, we highly recommend ACSL bulk buys to minimize the effects of these costs. Now I'll hand it over to Anish for the conclusion.
So despite all the issues that might arise from current pandemic, we still believe that ACSL can succeed in reaching the international drone market. By using their focus on customizability as a unique selling point, they can enter the global market and distinguish themselves from their competitor. Next slide, please, sorry. We recommend that ACSL enters the agriculture, marine, and construction industry in countries like Canada, New Zealand, Finland, and Ireland, and expand their pre-existing partnerships in the United States and Singapore. This concludes our pitch deck, and we look forward to ACSL's venture into the global market. Thank you for your time.
Excellent. So now is Q&A time.
Great, fantastic. Thank you for joining us today and presenting. That was a pretty quick and well put together presentation. I've got a couple questions. I'll start with one, then I'll hand it over to Vikas. One of the most important things here is you've spoken about your differentiating factor as being customizable, like customizability. And you showed a slide showing basically your value map, where your 2 primary products were at the lower right, and you want to move them upwards in terms of cost efficiency. Expansion and cost efficiency usually don't go hand in hand. If you're unable to, in your core home market, achieve efficiencies, then there's no way you're achieving efficiencies when you're expanding. Can you discuss a little bit further about this type of market positioning that you're going for, and perhaps certain, maybe either speak a little bit further into how you'd be able to achieve this, or perhaps a different type of value proposition that you can bring forth?
Sure. So basically, when we were researching about this topic, what I actually found about is that most people who deploy drones in their projects, they usually want ease of use, and they are mostly concerned about the costs. Now, I agree that the costs of the PF2 drone and mini drones are high, but they are comparatively more customizable than the other drones in the market. Now, of course, we can't reduce the cost entirely, but what we were thinking in the expansion strategy, that just for the first 2 or 3 customers, they could give it at a subsidized cost so that we get the initial reputation. And once we get that, we could possibly get some recommendations Or what we were also thinking is maybe we can approach one or two big companies who might have 10, 20 factories, and we just give them a proof of concept for one of their factories. If it brings out results, they can maybe deploy it to all 10 of them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the question, Himam. For time being, we're gonna move on to the next group. Hannah, please let the next group in, and we'll thank you so much, Group 1, Team 90. Thank you so much, Group 1.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Difficulty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries about the technical difficulties. Not a problem.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay.
Team 2 ID 89, we're so excited. Please go right ahead with your presentation.
In the past, Lao Tzu once said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Today, we say that the journey to $1 billion valuation begins in South Africa. Good morning, judges. Our three key takeaways are: 1, ACSL should expand to South Africa; 2, we should primarily target the mining industry; and 3, if not mining, then healthcare. I'm Guang Rong, and I will start off by introducing the African market and present some information about the mining sector. Shui will then elaborate on healthcare. Zen will be presenting on market prospects, business best practices, and regulations. Ethan will then conclude this presentation with differentiation strategies, financial projections, and a workable timeline. Next slide, please. South Africa's unique social-political environment, which includes: 1, very high English literacy levels; 2, a positive business climate; and 3, government interest and support in this sector presents a compelling case for expansion. Furthermore, the rapidly growing economy also has a large mining sector worth $53.1 billion. This is a very interesting sector as it allows us to leverage our specialization in working underground using GPS-denied capabilities to create a good, positive business competitive advantage. Next slide. We believe that ACSL can fulfill 3 unaddressed gaps in the mining industry, which allows us to leverage our unique GPS-denied capabilities. Firstly, the delivery of spare parts and supply. Secondly, underground inspection and mining operations. And thirdly, digital reconnaissance and disaster management. Considering that the average mine size is about 900 hectares or 9 kilometers squared, we believe that around 6 drones will be required per mining site. Furthermore, assuming around 6 to 8 sites per year, we project revenues upwards of 1 billion Japanese yen. On the right-hand side of this slide, you'll be seeing 3 of the largest mining companies who you might consider working with for this expansion. Next slide. And now let's talk about competitors and partners. For competitors, we have isolated 2 of the largest competitors, which are Rocketmine and Ramjet Technological Solutions. Rocketmine specializes in building drones specifically tailored for the mining industry. However, they are hamstrung by the fact that their drones cannot operate underground in GPS-denied environments, and they lack resources as they are a small company. Ramjet presents a more serious threat as they are a larger company. However, drones are not their primary component of their core business model, and therefore they lack the focus required to expand their presence regionally. As for partnerships, we have isolated Integrated Aerial Systems, or IAS. IAS currently specializes in using LiDAR for GPS-denied capabilities. Therefore, their own technologies can very well complement ours, which will make our presentation and our drones even better. Furthermore, they have a strong local contact network for businesses and are familiar with on-the-ground regulation works. Furthermore, and most importantly, we have spoken to Warren White, who's the co-founder of IAS, and he has told us that he's more than willing and open to a discussion for a partnership to allow ACSL to easily expand into the South African market. So in conclusion, why not change one of your most powerful competitors into a potent ally and kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Over to you, Shihui. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Guarong. Moving on, we will be analyzing the healthcare industry, which appears to be a promising sector for ACSL drones to be utilized. Firstly, possible services that ACSL can provide for include intra-city medical delivery and urban drone disinfection, amongst others. This is especially important in the COVID-19 world, where contactless solutions are preferred. Furthermore, ACSL drones, especially the PF2 model, can aid in quicker delivery of defibrillators in life and death situations. According to a global report done by PwC, this increases survival rates from 8% to 80%. Putting things into context, in Pretoria alone, ACSL drones can deliver defibrillators to 65% of the city from just 4 hospitals. Thus, this slide highlights the potential of the healthcare industry in South Africa that ACSL can tap into. Next slide, please. However, it is also important for the company to be aware of existing competitors in the region. We identified Zipline as a potential competitor, with the company's valuation at $1.2 billion USD. Fortunately, we managed to find exploitable weaknesses of the company, which can make ACSL's expansion into South Africa more favorable. Firstly, Zipline has not yet established an operating base in South Africa, which creates an opportunity for ACSL to establish its presence in the region first. Moreover, Zipline's drones are inferior to ACSL drones as theirs are not designed for use within highly built environments. Thus, this is a gap that ACSL can address. As for drone industry partners, HimoQ is one of them. Having built a firm presence in South Africa, its technology specialization in POC complements ACSL's delivery drones, establishing an efficient system. In totality, we have derived that the medical sector presents long-term opportunities for regional expansion and with relatively low risk for ACSL. I will now pass the time to Suen. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Shihui. Next, I'll be going through the optimistic short-term and long-term prospects for ACSL's expansion into the South African medical sector and mining industry. In view of the current pandemic, ACSL's drones would prove extremely valuable in terms of providing supplies, such as the delivery of drugs in times of COVID-19 lockdowns. The healthcare industry is also fully prepared to utilize drones to lessen the burdens of the frontline workers in their fight against the pandemic. One prime example would be the usage of drones for aerial sprays of disinfectant. As for the mining industry, with working restrictions due to the pandemic, mining companies can use ACSL's drone inspection services to reduce the number of workers in the mines at a single time, preventing any potential spread of the virus. In the long term, ACSL will be able to profit meaningfully from the high growth of the healthcare industry, where South Africa's per capita healthcare spending increased by approximately 16% from 2016 to 2018. With drones increasing the productivity and efficiency of the mining industry, long-term prospects also signal towards ACSL's potential expansion in the neighboring African mining markets. Next slide, please. Now I'll be running through some of the business's best recommended practices, and allow me to zoom in on point 3, which is about why South Africa's tax system is beneficial for ACSL. Tax is a major concern of businesses. Fortunately, in South Africa, they have a pretty flexible tax regime. Businesses are only required to register for VAT taxes when their revenue exceeds Rand 1 million or USD 62,000 in a span of 12 months. Moving on to regulations, any company interested in entering a new market will naturally be concerned about market entry requirements. As shown on our chart, half of these regulatory practices, specifically the CAA remote pilot license test, the English proficiency level test, and the rail telephonic exam requirements can all be completed within a week as a package course. And as a Japanese company, ACSL will also be comforted in knowing that foreign theoretical training can be approved and validated. In other words, these regulations are very much business friendly. ACSL will be able to clear all these regulations and make a successful entry. Next, over to Ethan. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Suen. ACSL stands out from its competitors for a myriad of reasons. Currently, ACSL drone possess significant capability advantages. Its drones can operate in GPS-denied locations and need not be limited to open space operations. Its drones are also able to conduct underground mapping with the help of a LiDAR camera. In alignment with the company's philosophy, these added features are easily made possible due to the high customizability of them. With ACSL's desire to always innovate, we aim to meet not only current needs, but future needs of the operation. Operations-wise, we aim to partner with the South African Drone Council to offer drone training to individuals keen on manning these marvels, as well as provide company employees with adequate knowledge on drone maintenance. Capabilities-wise, a future advancement is the installation of laser scanners, such as Faro's focused laser scanners, to check for tunnel integrity during mining operations. Such act as an early preventive measure and providing an extra layer of protection to miners in the event a tunnel is exposed to the risk of collapsing. Also, we propose looking into equipping these drones with the ability to conduct precision blast mining operations in small and hard-to-reach places underground. This way, this makes mining ores much easier, speeding up the mining process. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. We have conducted preliminary research into the estimated financial cost of this expansion. We propose that the company start off in Pretoria for its proximity to the Drone Council. We have taken into account the cost of acquiring the necessary manpower and facilities per native employee, as well as the additional fees incurred for application of licenses and permits. The expected timeline of ACSL's expansion into the market will be divided into several phases. We estimate about 12 to 24 months for the first drone to be delivered to our partnering companies, ready for service. In total, we estimate an expenditure of 180,000 to 360,000 USD to carry out the above preparatory logistical costs, excluding pay for existing employees, including drone manufacturing and delivering, before taking into account our profit margin. Thank you. We have come to the end of our presentation. Do the judges have any questions?
Awesome. We'll welcome one question from each judge.
Shall I begin?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Thank you all for your presentation. This one was actually quite eye-opening for me. I'd gone through it before the competition, so I had never thought of South Africa as a market. A couple of questions, one on price and one on volumes. So if you look at Africa, industry after industry sees Africa as a lower price market, whether it's two-wheeler production from India, like motorcycles, telecom services, what have you. How does ACSL's price compare to what is existing in Africa, either native companies or companies already operating there? Number one. And two, on the volume side and the production side, I think ACSL benefits a lot from the domestic partners that it has to help it scale up, like Yamaha. Is there a capability like that in South Africa? You've done a lot of work on the regulatory side, which is also new to me, but just local partners for outsourced production and assembly, that is one of their competitive edges. Have you identified that, and what kind of volumes do you think that could support?
I think that with regards to the pricing model, we chose South Africa because it was a country with the highest GDP per capita in the region, and spending power there seems to be the highest among Africa. And we always think that we want to approach it in a long-term scenario. So we chose the African markets rather than other more developed markets because we feel that there's long-term potential growth. And hence, it might be a good idea to get a foothold here. Compared to the US market, TGI has a 76.8% market share in the US market, and that is like really market dominance. Whereas in South Africa, there's much less competition, which is why we chose that sector. And regarding pricing, from what we have researched, our pricing model is quite competitive with the other local manufacturers in South Africa. And with regards to the second question, Santi, you want to speak on it?
Okay, with regards to the second question, we believe that ACSL, when they try to establish their company in South Africa, they have two options. One is to just go in as a Japanese company, and that will put them like on the minority side. And in this case, South Africa has a pretty high minority protection index, so like their interests will still be protected. And like we think that the more beneficial option would be to collaborate with a local partner, which is why we suggested IAS, as we felt that their drone capabilities can complement ACSL's drone systems too. And like there's quite a big cultural difference between South Africa and Japan, and like having a local partner to aid you will like smooth out the transition a lot, and they are more familiar with how South Africa's business market works, and we believe that that will be very beneficial for ACSL in their expansion to South Africa. We hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. Please, Keenam has a question, so I'll stop here. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I do have a question. It's in regards to more of your selection criteria. You did cover it a little bit, and also about competition. But instead of asking a question, because if you haven't done the research and you don't have on your side, you won't be able to answer. What I would say about, I just want to make a comment about your presentation then. If you are presenting to me and Vikas, myself, are basically like the board or making decisions in terms of what we're going to do with our free cash flow, then what we're really missing here is that it seems like you are so funneled into a specific solution rather than steering us into why you've decided to go this route. You kind of skipped on all that. There are so many markets, and we haven't even gotten to other similar or backup markets or basically other alternatives. And so it seems a little just way too heavy into this is our only solution. This is basically, we're only presenting you guys with one market, one path to move forward. And that's a little bit too narrow. Anyways, I just wanted to say that. Thank you guys. It was a good presentation though.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Team 2. And I think we can move on to the next team. Thank you so much, judges, as well. Great questions.
Okay, thank
Thank you so much for the
Thank
feedback.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Welcome, Team 3, ID 163. Please go ahead and start.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Harish, we're the Wall Street Wizards, and today we will be taking you through our presentation. Being in the UAV business, we decided that the time has come for ACSL to spread its wings throughout the world. But it was a tough proposition. There were many questions like where would we go, why would we go there, and when would we go? And today we found the answers. And today as a team, we want to take you through that journey. Next slide, please. All 195 countries were in our scope, so we took a funnel approach to narrow it down, as you can see on the right side. Once we found our target countries, we took a comprehensive and analytical approach for each country and recommended a roadmap. So with this, I hand it over to the rest of the Wall Street Wizards to take you through the presentation. Enjoy.
Thank you, Harish. Next slide, please. We looked at 195 countries and chose two criteria for elimination, which were opportunity size and how fast the UAV market was growing. The minimum size and CAGR we looked at was about 150 million and 15% respectively. We have identified 7 countries which could be potential markets and should be the target for expansion. However, we excluded Japan, Singapore, and the USA as ACSL is already present in these countries. Next slide, please. Before we took a deep dive for the target countries, we took a step back, introspected, and did a SWOT analysis on the company. What we found was a very good local brand with excellent use cases. However, ACSL has a weak global name as we struggle to locate ACSL on major social platforms like Twitter and Instagram. However, the COVID situation could be a blessing in disguise for drone manufacturers as demand for contactless operations increases. We are bound to witness an exponential growth in demand for UAVs. And this could be the perfect time for global expansion. With this, I hand it over to Yashika for a detailed analysis of the target countries.
Thank you, Anish. Next slide, please. So we asked ourselves, what are the key industries for each of these target countries? And then we asked ourselves, what are the different UAV use cases that ACSL can provide them? Let's take India for an example. India has a booming retail market with companies like Amazon and Flipkart. Can you imagine the number of use cases that ACSL could provide them? The possibilities are endless. We have contactless delivery, inspection, and warehouse surveillance. And when we did a sum of product calculation, we arrived at high scores for UAE, India, and China. Next slide, please. So we took a 360-degree approach, considering the political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental state of each of these countries. China, as you can see, has scored 4 positives within the pestle. However, the political and legal state of the country are not very ideal for a growing business like ACSL. Next slide, please. UAE has the perfect combination of all 6 components, which provides an optimal environment for ACSL to enter the market. Being a very technologically advanced country, UAE proves to be a perfect fit for a company like ACSL. Next slide, please. India has scored a high 5, with the only drawback being the legal licensing for UAV operations. And as you can see, India has such a high score, and considering this fact, I think it is evident that India in the future is going to be one of the largest and fastest growing drone markets in the globe. Now, I would like to hand it over to Tushar for prioritizing the countries.
Thank you, Yashika. So next slide, please. Yeah, after we have done all the analysis, we wanted to prioritize the target countries. So we had all the information, and we just wanted to integrate them using opportunity size, Pestle score, and sweet spot analysis. So what we did here was we rationalized the market size, and on the basis of the other 2 components, that is sweet spot score and the Pestle score for each country, we arrived at a total score for all the 3 countries. This gave us an order of magnitude, which we then correlated with the growth rate of the countries. And logically, we found UAE to be our priority 1, as it had the perfect blend of both rank and CAGR, followed by China and then India. Next slide, please. So after we had done prioritize the countries, what you see on your screen right now is the recommended roadmap for ACSL. Although we had done a thorough analysis, we recommend that ACSL use the services of a country-specific consultant so that they can understand the local nuances and problems. And once ACSL does have a complete understanding of a country, ACSL should evaluate different engagement models they could use to enter the market. For example, they can use a completely 100% owned ACSL model, or maybe a partnered route, or maybe a completely outsourced model. But before ACSL takes the final decision in expansion, I'm sure that they would like to know how it would all shape up financially. And for that, I hand it over to Harish.
Thank you, Tushar. Next slide. Now that you heard the team, I will be taking you through the strategy from a financial perspective. We used a discounted cash flow valuation model for the financial projection. We assumed a weighted average cost of capital, or WACC, of 8%, and the perpetuity growth rate was assumed according to the given scenario. Now, talking about scenarios, we did a financial simulation of 3 scenarios. Scenario 1 is if ACSL does not expand to any other country and continues its present operations normally. Now, this yields a 4% growth rate of cash flows in the next 5 years. And if you're talking about scenario 2, ACSL expands to all 3 countries together. With this scenario, granted, it's a high-risk approach, the rewards are also very high, and it's an approach worth looking out for. Now, talking about scenario 3, ACSL expands to 1 or 2 countries in the first 3 years. The third scenario favors a moderate risk and steady growth with progressive learning made along the way. Going with the second scenario, we can expect an explosive unlevered free cash flow growth rate of around 20%. With the third recommendation, we can realize around 10% of cash flow growth. But what if we told you that we can offer you the best of both worlds? Yes, that's right. We're going to offer you the best of scenario 2 and 3. As a team, we understand that the speed to market is of paramount importance, and hence, ideally, ACSL should expand to all 3 countries simultaneously, but with minimal risk. And to reduce that risk, ACSL can take a 3D approach. That is, a completely outsourced model for the first country, 100% owned operations for the second country, and a partnership model for the last country. This mix, this optimum combination, would provide maximum benefit with minimal risk. And with that, I conclude our presentation. On behalf of the Wall Street Wizards, I thank you for your time.
Beautiful team. Thank you so much for being so punctual. I will dive right into question time, and I welcome questions from Vikas.
Hi, good morning. I really enjoyed that one. It's quite thorough. I followed the logic quite clearly. One question I had is, so just in the interest of disclosure, we are shareholders. Our firm is shareholders in ACSL, and one thing that they are focused on, and we have identified as a key issue, is just scalability. So if you, I think in the information pack, there's some information about the installed base currently, the monthly production that they have had, and the monthly production that they are targeting in the near term. It's a big jump. This simultaneous expansion in multiple countries, and I follow the logic on why you've chosen the ones that you have, and they're great. How much thought have you given to the scalability issues, the production issues, and how do you see that evolving for the company in the near term? Can they hit these targets? And what kind of volumes are you thinking relative to what they have done?
So we did consider that the fact that ACSL is producing products which are not to its full capability, and it is capable of producing, say, around 30 to 40, whereas it's producing only, say, 5 or 10. So when we thought of global expansion, we did keep this in mind that, you know, they're going to have to produce more with the increase in the market. And for this, we do realize that ACSL has an extremely strong R&D team. And so we think that with our approach and with approaching each market slowly and gaining experience from each consecutive market, ACSL could make a completely detailed and informed plan about how many drones it can manufacture in every month, and how it can increase its production gradually, because it's not expanding to all 3 countries at the same time.
I see. Okay, thank you. I might have follow-ups at this time, but I'll turn it over to Kinan. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. That was a great presentation. I particularly enjoyed your analysis and how you structured basically your selection and your selection criteria in terms of markets. However, I do feel like we're lacking a little bit when it comes to analysis of the competitive market space and how you are going to enter in terms of your positioning. We can't get through too much of it. So I'd just like to invite you guys to talk a little bit more about your go-to-market strategy when it comes to we already talked a little bit about production scale, so you don't need to talk about that, but more so about the competitive landscape, how difficult it would be to either take over this market share or to move into expanding. Obviously, you're looking in basically the compound annual growth rate. So a lot of your gains would be through the growth rate, but some of it would have to be competing. So just talk a little bit about competitors for me, and in terms of your strategic, I guess, positioning.
Oh yeah, about that. So what our strategy or what we recommended for ACSL, basically we gave 3 recommendations for the 3 countries. We can choose any of the recommendation for any 3 countries, China, India, or UAE. And the first recommendation that we gave was like a complete outsource model. So that would actually help in the case of China, maybe, because local companies are already in China and the competition is very high with companies like DJI. So we need to come up with like a strategy for each separate market. And if we take a partnership model, so the partnership model can be used to tackle like the local problems, as one of my team members said. The local problems, we need like consultants, and we need basically partnerships to tackle the local issues. So that's one of the strategies that I think we can use to enter the market. And basically, if we use a mix of both of these for entering each separate country, I feel like ACSL can truly achieve global expansion.
Excellent. Okay. We will be moving on to group, the next group, please.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to team ID 258. Go ahead and please start.
Morning. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Please go ahead, team. Please go ahead, team. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We are Team 258 from Indonesia. My name is Emily. We have Kelly, Chris, and Jocelyn. For today's agenda, we will be going through why we think UAE is an excellent country for ACSL to expand their country to, the main competitors in UAE, why having a joint venture with Carrefour is a significant opportunity for ACSL, some background knowledge regarding Carrefour and their franchise partner, Majid Al Futtaim Group, some statistical facts regarding UAE, a detailed timeline regarding our plan, why we choose delivery, and UAE's market size of drones. We will then end with a conclusion and a Q&A session. I will pass this time to Chris, who will begin our presentation. Next slide, please.
Here's a little bit of a background information for ACSL. ACSL has a great target to have $1 billion sales by 2030. When there's a goal, there are problems that have to be dealt with. ACSL's problem is that they want to reach out to more consumers, but they have already spent too much on research and development and labor costs. The solution that we are proposing to deal with this problem is for ACSL to partner up with Carrefour UAE. We chose UAE specifically because UAE's laws and regulation for using drones aren't as strict as other countries. Another factor that caught our eyes is the economic state that UAE is in. UAE has an insane GDP per capita of 43,103. And also the market for drones in UAE isn't that saturated. Next slide, please.
In this slide, we would like to be telling you about the main competitors of ACSL we found in UAE. There are 3 different categories we divided it into, which are the Terra drones, Falcon Eye drones, and DJI drones. 1. Terra drones. Terra drones are used as aerial surveys to do infrastructure inspection, where they have the ability to analyze and data process, as well as it is headquartered in Japan. 2. Falcon Eye drones. For the second category of drones we have is the Falcon Eye drones, which is used to do surveys and mapping of an area. Its main purpose is to monitor and provide inspection services in UAE, as well as where it is originated from. 3. DJI drones. The final competitor we found in UAE are the DJI drones, which is used for aerial photography, as well as it is used for inspection services. DJI is headquartered in China. ACSL has these competitors, yet we feel ACSL is able to outstand these 3 companies because of a different service they can provide. Next slide, please.
Now, the question is, how do we plan to expand ACSL to UAE? Our solution is to have a joint venture with UAE's Carrefour, one of the leading supermarkets in UAE. So Carrefour in UAE is in a joint venture with a renowned shopping mall company called Majid Al Futtaim Group. Majid Al Futtaim Group itself is a very big company that operates shopping malls, retails, and leisure establishments in other countries as well. Because of the connections they have, this can lead ACSL to have an opportunity to expand their company in other countries that Majid Al Futtaim Group has established their companies in. One major strength Carrefour has is that they already have an established online shop system, which already includes a delivery system. Additionally, tourism-wise, UAE has also started to open its country to tourists during this pandemic, and the regulations made are also very safe. This makes ACSL easier to expand because of the flexibility they have during this pandemic. Next slide, please.
So as we all know, Carrefour is a French multinational company specialized in retail. Carrefour was first in Europe to open a hypermarket, a large supermarket, and a department store all under the same roof. They first opened their hypermarket on 15 June 1963 near Paris, which means that they have established the company for 57 years, building customers' trust and loyalty, which is an asset towards the company and the companies that they're working with. Carrefour is actually in 7th place for top global retailers and 5th place for Global Brand Simplicity Index, and is actually ranked 2nd place in the UAE Brand Simplicity Index. All these things bring substantial benefits to the ACSL company when in joint venture with Carrefour in the UAE, as they already have established connections in other parts of the world, which can further help expand ACSL's partnership with other countries. Next slide, please.
Here are some statistical facts about Carrefour UAE. UAE has the most online store usage recorded, which gives a strong foundation for the Carrefour online system that has been established. The COVID pandemic has affected most of the countries in the world. During this pandemic, there have been over 70,000 cases in UAE. However, the recovery rate in UAE is 17% higher than the world's average, which is really good. The GDP of the UAE have been showing a constant growth even though it dropped because of the pandemic. The GDP of the UAE peaked in 421.4 billion US dollars. Next slide, please.
So Carrefour actually grants a franchise to Majid Al Futtaim, and Majid Al Futtaim actually owns 1/4 of Carrefour's stake, which is actually quite significant to the company. So what about the Majid Al Futtaim Group? Well, Majid Al Futtaim is an Emirati holding company based in Dubai that as of 2015 owned and operated shopping malls, retail and leisure establishments in the Middle East and North Africa, with operations in 13 countries. The Majid Al Futtaim Group owns 16 shopping malls in UAE, such as Mall of the Emirates and City Center Daira, which are the top 4 largest malls in UAE. It also owns 8 fashion stores, including All Saints, Crate & Barrel, as well as Lululemon Athletica. All these are high-end brands, which are also present in other parts of the world. So, since Carrefour is a franchise owned by Majid Al Futtaim in the UAE, this may encourage other stores that are owned by the company to use the drones. Thus, by doing so, more profit can be earned. Since this company operates shopping malls, retail, and leisure establishments in other 13 countries, such as Armenia, Egypt, and Qatar, we envisioned that when ACSL has succeeded partnering up with Carrefour, it will encourage other stores in other countries to use drones to deliver things as well. Next slide, please.
So for the timeline of ACSL's expansion, we made the timeline using a Gantt chart and divided the project into 3 different phases. The first phase is project research, followed by project planning and also project implementation. The first phase is mainly about researching the different possibilities of expanding to UAE, creating goals and objectives, creating a project schedule, and also meeting with shareholders about the potential project. All of this is planned to be done in 3 months until the month of November if started in September. The second phase is about mainly to make an agreement and proposal to Carrefour in UAE, along with creating a prototype on the drone that can deliver groceries to customers. Lastly, the last phase is to implement the drone itself. In this phase, we emphasize on advertising and giving offers to customers so that they would be introduced to the new system of delivery that can definitely have more benefits than a normal delivery system. At the same time of giving offers, launching the drone would be the last step of the whole process, and ACSL will be able to start using the drone to deliver the groceries in UAE. Next slide, please.
So in this slide, I would like to explain to you the reason why we decided to choose delivery. So the delivery has made everyone's daily life way more efficient, and it is fair to say with or without the pandemic, delivery takes a big part of our daily lives. With this pandemic, however, deliveries are very much needed. Due to the fear of getting the virus, they would definitely want their deliveries to be clean and safe. So using drones allows customers to do social distancing. Therefore, we think that this is a very good opportunity for ACSL to expand during this time. Next slide, please.
Lastly, market size is one of the most important things to look at while breaking through a new market. Because of their expansion in Singapore and the USA, this makes ACSL easier to cater to markets in other countries. Additionally, as drones are a niche market with high value and segmented customers, it makes it easier for ACSL to capture the total addressable market. I will pass this moment to Jocelyn to conclude this presentation.
All right, so to sum it all up, partnering up with Carrefour in the UAE is the foremost strategy for ACSL to take the initial step in their journey of expanding their business. The country UAE has less competition, especially with the differentiated service of delivery. Since Carrefour partners up with Majid Al Futtaim, which owns and operates shopping malls, retail, and leisure establishments in 13 other countries, connections have been established. When the drone delivery service works for Carrefour, other stores within the Majid Al Futtaim group may want to implement this drone delivery system as well. Also, Carrefour is a global hypermarket. When the drone delivery system has become a success in UAE, it can further expand to other Carrefour supermarkets in other parts of the world. So, let us use the pandemic as an opportunity instead of a challenge to overcome. Indeed, the saying is true. When one door is closed, another door is open. As when there is a will, there's a way. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and we would like now to open up to the Q&A session.
Thank you so much, team. Okay, so please go ahead, judges, with your questions.
All right, let me start here. Thank you very much for the presentation. That was well put together and you spoke very clearly, so that was nice. What I've got a couple questions, but I'll just focus on one of them. Basically, ACSL, your drones have 4 main applications. And it seems like you've really funneled in on just one application here, which would be, I mean, one industry as well, retail and one application delivery. Can you speak a little bit more about the reason why you decided that this is the best way to move forward, rather than taking a look at some of the other really core strengths of ACSL in the customization that has to do with inspection and disaster relief?
That's a really great question, actually, and we considered that aspect as well. For example, the inspection services. All the drones that are given by the ACSL is actually all potentially, they all have their own each potential. But we specifically look at delivery as, especially now during this pandemic, inspection services or aerial photography, those things are, how would I say, a bit more less demanded as compared to delivery, because especially in other parts of the world, you always have this social distancing. Like example, in Singapore, we always have this social distancing, and it's better if we don't have contact with other people. So we figured out like delivery is a great way, especially like with the drones, because there's no social contact, and it's also in a way faster when compared to like delivering with cars or motorcycles. So it will be a great way, not only in this pandemic, to establish this delivery system, but also, future ahead, the drones will really work.
And I would also like to add that ACSL also had produced like medium-sized drone that can deliver parcels up to 4 kg, which is really good for this delivery and the expansion that we are planning to do.
Thank you.
I think I had a similar question. I think Kinam is identified one core aspect of the presentation, which is it does seem like a little bit of a departure from what the company historically has done. So can you tell me, just help me understand, how will you incorporate what the company believes to be its key competitive advantage, aside from the outsourced production, which is the AI that drives the autonomous flight and the image recognition? Is this if you could talk a little bit more about retail, maybe a little bit less retail, but delivery being the key market to focus on. I think historically they've done very well with site inspection where there is no GPS, where there is GPS, bridge inspection, flying in rural areas. So this would be a bit of this would be a shift in strategy for them. So how can you extend the company's core advantage while continuing to pursue this opportunity?
For the strategies itself, for example, like the advantages that the company actually had, like the GPS system and stuff, we can imply it to the application for the users that actually use the delivery system to actually track the drone, where is it and is it arrived or not. So as the technology rises, we can use that to advance the software that we're actually putting for this expansion.
Yeah, I would also like to add, because ACSL also mainly focuses on military, and they said they wanted to expand more on dealing with consumers and people that can actually relate more to the drones, and they can actually use the drones for normal daily life. So I think they want to focus less on military, and they would want to try to enter like a different market.
I presume you mean government. The company has a stated mission not to supply for military use. So I think you mean government, right? The government is their largest customer. Yeah. But the military, not the military. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the clarifying question and answer. Thank you so much again, team, for your presentation. We're moving on to the next team.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, team ID 302. Hi, everyone. I see that everybody's connected. I'm just gonna introduce myself. My name is Linda. I'm the host for this competition, and without further ado, please get started with the presentation.
Good morning, everyone.
Can we already start?
Yes. Hi. Good morning. Please begin. Yep.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Megan. This is Robert, Amir, Lester. We're Team 302 here to present the case study for ACSL's global expansion. So global expansion is all about going big, reaching as many clients outside the company's home and plotting down great goals for the company's future. But we're all going to need somewhere to start first. And for ACSL, that's Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. With an ongoing infrastructure boom in most Southeast Asian countries, over $500 million have been spent on construction. There's so much big positive numbers about Southeast Asia's infrastructure success, but there's too much risk involved. An 11% estimated decline in GDP is expected within the century due to climate change, and losses from flooding are also expected to reach $220 billion by 2050. In fact, just last year, the region's average annual loss was $86.5 billion, which makes Southeast Asia the perfect place for ACSL because there's so many opportunities. But before we proceed, let's talk about our major competitors first. Next slide, please.
Numerous established drone firms already exist globally. Companies such as DJI and Unique take over as much as 70% of the market share. However, most of these large-scale companies focus on the consumer drone market, with only a few of them having an established presence in Southeast Asia. Most companies focus on other types of inspection and simple visual surveys. In fact, very few of them focus on autonomous flight and image processing. Meanwhile, existing aerial survey companies in Southeast Asia are still using manned aircrafts in mapping and other geospatial services, which are often costly and slow for emergency disaster response. Next slide, please.
Now we know that each company has its own strength, but there's no denying that with the technology ACSL has, it's the best drone for disaster risk and resilience. With our state-of-the-art tech, the drones can quickly be deployed for reconnaissance and surveying, making it the perfect drone for the perfect region.
So how can we make use of this potential and bring ACSL into the global spotlight? Next slide, please. Through the ACSL Expansion Strategy 2022 to 2028, which focuses on establishing presence in Southeast Asia through projects spread across 3 phases. The strategy starts with Phase 1, Expose, which aims to foster a wider brand awareness for ACSL. It begins in Q1 of 2022 or even the latter half of 2021 until 2023 through regional partnerships and investments in Southeast Asia. Next is Phase 2, Experience, from Q3 of 2023 to 2025. We aim to demonstrate the potential of ACSL's advanced drone technology to constituents in the region by establishing a regional office in Bangkok and bringing our full range of services to the region. Of course, our goal goes beyond just exposing ACSL. That is why Phase 3, Exchange, is all about enhancing production capacities from 2026 to 2028 to cement our presence in Southeast Asia. We can assure that ACSL can make the most out of each project by further integrating drones into clients' operations through the exchange of our developed models. Next slide, please.
In the first phase of the strategy, ACSL will partner with engineering consulting firms in Southeast Asia. Per company, ACSL will send 2 to 4 R&D specialists as in-house developers for drone operations and the creation of the targeted mass production models, or the TMPMs. For each project, a 10 to 15% commission from the gross profit will be collected. Through this, we will gain insight in developing our drones components and expanding our network while saving our R&D expenses. And in return, partners will be able to improve operational efficiency in their projects, and they will also be the first to utilize the TMPMs once it's viable.
Meanwhile, ACSL will also supply disaster reconnaissance drones to Japan International Cooperation Agency's search and rescue and expert teams to bring feedback for disaster drone development, and invest in Southeast Asian pioneer flight and image processing tech startups. Through this, we get global exposure and attain a positive brand image for using technology for the social good.
So through all these partnerships and initiatives, our drones will be incorporated into projects of site management, disaster resilience, and geomatics with our 3 to 4 partner consulting firms. The joint R&D groups are also expected to develop 2 to 3 TMPMs by the end of Phase 1 and begin using them in projects starting Phase 2. ACSL drones will also be able to enter 1 to 2 new markets through functions developed in these new TMPMs. So in total, we can expect to bring as much as 650 million yen annually from project commissions with a revenue boost of as much as 26 to 30%. Next slide, please.
Our prospect partner firms, namely OC Global, Panya Group, SLP Environmental, Orecon, GNS Science, and MAA Group, are all international companies that cater to industries where the inspection services of ACSL will be most useful. They are based either in Australia or Asia and have hundreds of operations in the region collectively. Next slide, please.
Now for phase 2. Beginning Q3 of 2023, ACSL will have a Southeast Asian regional office in Bangkok, Thailand, a common area for most of ACSL's prospect partners to house all operations and marketing in the region. Research and development efforts for TMPMs would also be moved to a more optimal location, which are our facilities in Southeast Asia. Now, we can achieve all that for only a cost of around 73.87 million yen, inclusive of rent, construction, necessary legalities, 1-year salary for 24 Thai employees, and allowances for managers working overseas.
So once we've got our Bangkok branch fully established, the focus of phase 2 will shift to public-private partnerships, which we have mainly two. First is a climate risk assessment project, which will be done with consulting firms to provide a complete package from data collection to analysis and assessing public infrastructure in Southeast Asia. From this, we can positively impact communities and also foster meaningful relationships with governments in Southeast Asia. To also connect with the academe, we'll open the R&D department to AI and engineering internships for students to experience working with emerging drone technologies, while serving as a platform for us to headhunt potential candidates for hiring. Lastly, research opportunities will enable students to utilize drones in their methodologies and explore other possible functions of ACSL drones. The allocated budget for the internship program is around 1 million yen, and another 3 to 5 million yen will be allocated for the research grants. Next slide, please.
For our last phase, ACSL will vie to be part of national infrastructure plans by further working with national governments. Using the risk assessment data gathered in phase 2, we'll urge developers for the collaborations while fully mobilizing TMPMs for rapid proof of concepts and customization, allowing us to quickly capture a larger number of developers across the region.
And to complement the projected growth, we aim to enhance the available drone models and production capacity in Japan and Southeast Asia to adapt drones further into each client's operations. And annual HR circulations will also be done to foster constant skills and tech exchange, while mass production for Southeast Asian clients will be exported to regional suppliers. Now, through this strategy, ACSL drones would reach 4 to 6 countries, with 3/4 of our clients advancing from concept to mass production, along with an increase in revenue and reduced shipping costs. Next slide, please.
Our team has also integrated countermeasures to potential threats into structuring the strategy. First, strict drone regulations can be solved by having partner firms that operate in multiple countries and give out various services. This is to ensure that we are not over-reliant on only one country or industry. The public-private partnerships in phase 2 are also expected to greatly improve government relations and public policy. We also recommend investing in good negotiators and lawyers to ensure mutual benefit in partnership terms for phase 1. And since language and culture are considered to be key factors in effective communication, we designed the university STEM partnerships to attract local talents to work for ACSL, while the HR circulations is to expose staff to both Asian cultures. Next slide, please.
So global expansion is also about finding opportunities behind risks and reaching out to other countries for the social good. Luckily, this strategy has all that. All we have to do is take that first step in Southeast Asia, because the future of ACSL is here. Thank you. Any questions?
Lovely. Okay, so we'll head over to the Q&A time for the judges, and I will would Judge Keenan, do you have any questions for the team?
Thank you guys, that was well put together. I particularly appreciate your focus on operational strategy, go-to-market strategy, and really focusing on a bit more of a long-term and your channel strategy as well, long-term approach. So that was great. Now, can you talk a little bit about basically Right. Okay. So let's take a quick step backwards. One of the most important aspects of this case study or the problem you're presented with is about the process and your analysis of choosing the market. I feel like that was a bit too rushed through, and we went straight to Southeast Asia and straight to Thailand, and we kind of skipped over one, why Southeast Asia over some other promising markets like UAE, and Africa. And number two, we also skipped through in Southeast Asia, why Thailand first. Can you talk a little bit more about your selection of market and kind of culminate with why you've decided, right now, if we're going to invest, we're going to focus just on Thailand in the first phase?
Okay, so thank you for that question. We actually did a lot of research about all the other continents. And for Europe, we tried to check all the pros and cons. And for Europe, we saw that they actually promote their own drone companies. In Central Asia, they're pretty hostile toward drones. They have strict laws and few infrastructure. Latin America has strict policies too. They have human rights issues. Africa doesn't exactly have that capacity, or there isn't enough initiative for infrastructure growth yet. And North America, there are trade war tensions between Asia and USA, which can affect our channels between US and Japan. While East Asia has lots of competition already, we know that Korea is already focusing on developing in its own industry, right? So we saw that Southeast Asia is that place where the cons, quote unquote cons, or risks are actually also an opportunity for us, because their biggest risk also involves climate vulnerability. And that's what we're there for. So thank you. I hope that answers your question.
In addition to what my teammate Megan said, we chose Thailand because of the prospect partners. We looked at where their main projects are, and we discovered that most of their offices are in Thailand, most of their projects are in Thailand. And we also considered the drone regulations and the strictness and the looseness of creating a regional branch in the area. So we found out that Thailand is actually ideal because we actually fit in the categories that they put us in, and actually we can have perks when in case that we got the chance to convince the board of investments that we are an innovative company that can improve their science and technology. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, guys. Oh, sorry, continue.
To expound on what my teammate Lester said, actually the Board of Investments in Thailand is looking to promote technology companies in their country. So one of the benefits that we saw with establishing our office there is we can get up to 8 years of corporate tax exemption and an easier process to register our business there. But this is not to say that we are closing our doors to all the other Southeast Asian countries, because that is the purpose of connecting with partner consulting firms, since they have projects all over Southeast Asia. So we want to connect through them for the other Southeast Asian countries. Thank you.
Quickly add on, as right before we head for break, I think with Judge V, because you have any last question for the team?
I know we're tight on time, so just a quick question, which is, rather than doing a backward-looking post-mortem a few years from now, if you were to do a pre-mortem now and look at your business plan and try to figure out if you do miss your targets, if things don't go to plan, what would be the main reason for that, do you think? What do you think is the highest risk part of your business plan?
So, thank you for that question. Our strategy is based basically on the success of the previous phases, so they're sequential in nature. So, I think the biggest risk in the strategy is the success of partnerships with consulting firms in the region, since that is the start of establishing our presence in Southeast Asia. However, we trust that ACSL, along with good investments and good lawyers, can push through with these partnerships, especially because the company already has experience in partnering with Hokuo Consulting Company in Japan, where they are developing a new drone model catered to sewage system. So we trust that with that experience, we can push through with partnering in Southeast Asia with the major consulting companies.
Okay, that's quite thoughtful. Thank you. You all had a very balanced presentation. I enjoyed listening to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we'll head for a break. Thank you so much, judges. Hello, Team ID 303. Welcome. So I'm the host, Linda, and all the judges are present on the call, and you can go ahead with your presentation.
Xin chào.
Xin chào. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Good afternoon, the panel of judges. So as the case we received this year is to bring ACSL to go global. But to us, if you want to go global, first you need to go local. So our first location is Thailand, and this is plus 84 from Vietnam. And we're proudly to be here and present to you our global expansion strategy for ACSL. Next. Our main approach in this strategy is to form a joint venture to enter the Thai market at the first stage. Then we can attain the goal of expanding the output for ACSL drones, as well as sustain the cooperation on a global scale. So the question is, why Thailand but not other markets? First, we want to focus on Asia, since this region is projected to continue leading the world drones market share in at least 5 years ahead. Secondly, compared to other parts of Asia, which are already packed with many key players, Southeast Asia is a rather rising market. Thirdly, along with Singapore, a market that ACSL has got their products entered before, Thailand can be the next link in the chain when projected to double its market size over 1 year. Next. Okay. So as you can see in the middle of the slide, top 3 commercial drone adoption in Thailand by sectors are construction, mining industry, and precision agriculture. We want to focus on the most widespread application of drones is inspection application. Since ACSL already has the existing technology, can satisfy the ongoing demand of inspection in these sectors, thus will require less time and R&D investment to regain funding. Moving on to the next graph. As you can see on the scale of 0 to 5, 0 is the least attractive and 5 is the most attractive. Compared to Japan, Thailand has much stricter regulations and also has a significant lack of existing AG aerial tool adoption. However, you can see that drone adoption can bring huge crop value opportunity for Thai agriculture. Next. Okay, so to sum up, Thailand is a potential market at its early stages with a market size that is relatively small but growing rapidly. So can you please tell us the competition intensity with regards to inspection service, what we focus on?
Yes, Hoàng Anh. So there are, as you can see, there are 3 main companies involved in the drone inspection competition. They are also drone distributor, mainly imported from well-known drone manufacturers like Parrot, Flyability, and Trimble. So what are their strengths compared to us?
We're hearing an echo.
This is a variety in drone models and price range. Moving on to the next slide. Next slide, please. Let's take a look at the drone imported in Thailand market. So now we have picked 2 drones for comparison with our product, and clearly our drone our drone surpass them in both feature and customizability. Our high customizability also make our drone the best choice in adoption to any field. Now I would like to focus on our competitive features. Unlike our drone, which depend on the GPS to work, the cerebrum and cerebellum technology allow us to function in a GPS denied environment. Moreover, we also have a significant long battery life and a high adaptability to the surrounding. For these prominent features, we aim to provide high-quality technology with an above-average price. After analyzing the market, can Cẩm Vân show us our potential partner, please?
Yes, Ken. Next, please. So as you have known that to successfully enter Thai drone industry, we need a solid base to build upon, specifically forming a joint venture with SGS Thailand. So who is SGS Thailand? Is a leading company providing inspection service. But why SGS Thailand is a good fit for ACSL? The first reason is that currently SGS Thailand wants to enhance business through future inspection technology. And second, SGS Thailand had a wide distribution network, not only in Thailand, but also growing in Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. And this is what ACSL needs in the market entry process. And the final reasons is that our customized UAV are highly applicable to SGS inspection process. Thus, it can help SGS Thailand maximize productivity and exactitude. So when establishing this partnership, ACSL can access to SGS Thailand resources, such as strong distribution network, specialist employees, and financial resources. Meanwhile, SGS Thailand can benefit from having access to the fine technology. Next, please. But how can we enter this market? As you can see on the slide, there are many fields that we can apply inspection service by drone. But in stage 1 of market entry, the joint venture will only focus on 3 main sectors: precision agriculture, construction, and mining industry. But what are the outputs of this joint venture? There are 2 main outputs. We can either provide drone inspection service or sell customized drones. At this first stage, we aim to maximize our productivity up to 50 drones per month. In stage 1, we also pay a lot of attention and budget on promotion, marketing strategy, and R&D to develop more competitive features. The projected costs for marketing strategy and R&D are respectively 20% and 10% of initial funding. So after this stage, we can be the first and the biggest Japanese manufacturer in Thai drone market. Moving on to stage 2, as we're having the partnership with SGS Thailand, whose clientele is growing both nationwide and in Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. So we can use this distribution network to enter other new markets. And the last stage is to expand the joint venture to other countries based on SGS global network of clients and branches. But how about if we fail to come to a deal with SGS Thailand? What is the backup plan? So Kang, can you tell us about this?
Yes, Cẩm Vân. Next slide, please. So besides SGS, we also choose AIG, an insurance company. So why should we choose an insurance company like AIG Thailand to form a joint venture? Well, ACSL can provide drone inspection for both disaster relief and property insurance. So instead of using main aircraft, which cost more money and time, so which what costs more money and time. So AIG can use drones in small, easier to operate, and can travel to places that are unsafe for human. Next, can Ngọc introduce us the timeline to enter this new market?
Thank you, Kang, for such a great question. And the answer is now. This is the right time to enter Thai market. And the reason is that drones are still new technology to Thailand, and there is no official drone manufacturer company. Okay, next slide, please. So as you can see on the slide, the first quarter of 2021, we would devise our strategy and business planning with our partner. So moving to the next quarter, we would do partner screening with SGS Thailand to know our partner's financial situation. In the third quarter, we would come to negotiation stage to discuss responsibility, technology, and financial shares between the companies. And after that, we would get regulatory approval in the final quarter of 2021 and start planning for the launch for the joint venture in the first quarter of 2022. Next slide, please. And the final question is, what are the risks we might face? In this case, we are facing many challenges like client affordability, working capabilities of HR, and the regulatory environment.
we would try to we would try to diversify our inspection services and drone products to meet our customers and needs and budget. We also want to develop online platform to supervise Thai operators training processes. And about the regulatory environment, we can resolve it in the joint venture when we form it with SGS. And finally, we would increase our R&D investment to develop more competitive features. Next slide. That also concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much for the presentation, team. We're heading to Q&A with the judges. And Judge Vikas, would you take over the first question for us, please?
Yes, thank you all for that. It was very thoughtful, and just aesthetically is very nicely done as well. One question I had was, it's clear in my mind what the strategy is once you establish a base in Thailand and grow beyond into the rest of Southeast Asia. Could you help us understand a little bit more about why Thailand first and some of the markets that you excluded and what was the reason for that?
Okay, so the reason for us to choose Thailand is first, we want to focus on Asia since this region is projected to continue leading the world growth market share. Secondly, compared to other parts of Asia like Japan, Korea, Taiwan, which are already packed with many key players from Chinese manufacturers, Southeast Asia is a quite rising market with a growing demand. And thirdly, Singapore is also a Southeast Asian country market that ACSL already has their product entered before, so Thailand can be the next link in the chain when it has a potential market size growth and also the second largest economy in the Southeast Asian countries. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, like Vikas was saying, that was well thought through. Seems you've covered most of the questions that were the focus of this case study. But however, I'd like for you guys to touch a little bit more on your strategic, I guess, go-to-market strategy. It seems like you've really focused on just one, basically a channel partnership. Can you discuss any other strategies, maybe a little bit more long-term? We're thinking maybe 2 to 3 years, and what type of positioning that you'll want, what type of leadership do you want in the Thailand market? If you're going to enter a market, you got to have that kind of map, so you know within 5 years, 10 years where you want to sit in terms of the value proposition that you offer your customers. So those are 2 questions in one. Got it?
Yeah, so like we said before, after we arrive in Thailand, our next location, we aim to penetrate in East Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. The 3 reasons why we choose this market are because the first one is that they already have a growing client, which SGS already has for us to assess. So therefore, we don't have to do a lot of market research.
I'm sorry, Kang, I think you misunderstood my question. I meant, let's just focus on Thailand. What you've told us is your strategy is a partnership strategy. That is basically your business development strategy. Can you talk a little bit more about other strategies in terms of gaining a foothold in the marketplace? So not just alternative partners, but other types of go-to-market strategies.
Okay, so please spare us a second, please.
So in Thailand, besides SGS, we also want to, broaden our application through delivery. So we're thinking about partnership with Amazon, and also we are still thinking about maybe customer application of the drones to widen our output in the Thailand market.
Okay, thank you. I think we're out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, team. Please leave the room now, but do come back at the time of announcement. Thank you. And
Thank you.
we'll move on to the next team, Team 7.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Team 7 ID 364. I'm your host, Linda, and we have both of the judges online right now. So whenever you're ready, please go ahead and keep in mind that your presentation is timed. So please go ahead with your presentation.
The drone is a symbol of high-end technology. But what if drone could also represent the return of nature? What if the human-made drone could become what defines the future of nature? Next slide, please.
Climate change has steadily but surely crept its way to the center stage of humanity's concerns. As seen in the graph to the left, the current trajectory, the red line, shows that an estimated 60 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide will be produced in 2030. We are the last generation that can prevent irreparable damage to our environment. It is a problem that is happening now, happening everywhere across the globe. Various measures have been implemented to counter this situation, but the damage is still happening. Next slide.
Autonomous tree planting drones will enable a brighter future by improving tree planting operations in 3 important ways. First, drones increase work productivity. As part of the tree planting process, drones provide images of possible areas for planting. If this work was done by humans, it would take longer. Second, tree planting drones can replace dangerous work currently done by humans. There are many potential hazards in tree planting, such as uneven terrain that can lead to slips and falls. So by utilizing tree planting drones, multiple hazards to humans can be eliminated. Third, tree planting drones can promote societal advancement. Drones can turn tree planting into more efficient and safe work, thus increases the potential volume of trees planted, which is good for the environment. Eventually, tree planting drones can contribute to 4 different SDGs. Next slide, please.
Okay, the total area of forest has been increasing in the US as well as the forest market. There is ample room for growth in reforestation and that the forestry industry keeps planting volumes well above harvest volumes. If demand continues to increase, planting volumes will have to do as well. In addition, countries nearby like Canada have the same tendency in the market, so this means there are chances to expand the business more swiftly. Next slide, please.
I think you're muted. We don't hear anything.
Oh, sorry. There are 3 expected competitors in the tree planting drone market. One is Gendra Systems, previously known as Biocarbon Engineering, which has developed a planting drone that is capable of covering a hectare in 18 minutes to plant 300 biodegradable seed pods. Flash Forest is currently capable of planting 10,000 to 20,000 seed pods a day and aims to reduce the costs of trees to 50 cents, which is a fourth of the cost of other tree restoration efforts. Drone Korea utilizes its specially designed low-cost drones to make its product more accessible to the public, and it also makes use of Pix4D Mapper. which is capable of identifying ideal locations for seed planting. So the general trend seen is that competitors in the market have the upper hand in their efficiency and low costs. Next slide.
So creating a fully new product superior to predecessors will differentiate our product from competitors. Currently, many competitors are working on planting trees through the usage of drones. So far, there are no companies that use autonomous drones. Manually controlled drones and autonomous drones functions differently, that they can be categorized as a different product. All present competitors rely on manually controlled drone system, which initially allowed them to reduce major steps that were indispensable in manual tree planting. But nonetheless, they still have deficiencies, such as high labor costs for drone pilots' interventions and the need to manually locate areas that are capable of planting trees. However, the drone designed by ACSL have advanced autonomous flight technology capable of detecting areas that can plant trees with minimal help from humans. In comparison, biocarbon engineering, which is the front runner of the tree planting industry, employs more than 3 pilots. And considering that drone pilots are paid over $84,000 in average, in conversion, 126,000 trees can be made in equivalent money by using a single autonomous drone. Next slide, please.
Now we would like to introduce you the process of tree planting drones. There are 5 steps: inspection, analysis, drop-off, further observation and inspection, and expansion. During the first and second steps, drones take images of the possible areas of planting. Then images are sent to the cloud for further analysis and optimization. The third step is drop-off. During this stage, drones are sent to the designated area to drop off seeds and fertilizer. In the fourth step, drones are periodically sent to planting sites for observation and inspection. For this step, drones and humans have to work together to deal with unexpected issues. The last step is expansion. After the assigned trees grow up well, tree planting drones will go back to the first step and start to inspect new areas for planting. Next slide, please.
So risks are imminent when operating the drones and should be considered for further optimization. Malfunctions in between missions are going to happen almost for sure, with unexpected accidents or interference from an outsider. Producing a drone capable of picking up malfunctioned drones on the ground is a feasible solution. Security issues are another risk that will always come along with new technologies. Improving technology will enhance human capability and quality of life, but on the other hand, it can be used against us. Having a stronger firewall may be an option. Next slide, please.
As it's shown in this chart, while the solution development sales are rapidly increasing, we can see a drop in the sales in the third and fourth stage. By expanding this product, we can anticipate a great increase in both 1, 2, and 3, 4 stages. With this, ACSL will be able to expand its market to the US, Canada, and Latin America. Pursuing and tree planting drones will be able to create a foundation for other applications, particularly in agriculture and other potential areas with similar needs. Needless to say, expanding the market to the Americas will build and strengthen bonds between the company and the government in each region and develop several branches in the Americas, creating feasible route for the future. Next, please.
So potential partners are listed below, and one of them is Brakeman and Associates, which has planted 1 billion trees throughout the past 50 years and is responsible for managing projects in Canada and Latin America by offering forestry management services. Ecosia is a free browser extension service that donates its ad revenue to reforestation groups and has invested in more than $7 million to plant more than 20 million trees. And as you can see, some these partners highlighted have far more experience in the field of forestry, which is vital information for ACSL to get a head start. Next slide, please.
Okay, the infographic shows the general timeline for ACSL that we predict The first step for ACSL is to find a partner logging company in Washington to implement the drones and to reach for an agreement by next year in March. ACSL then needs to create a new branch on the west coast of the US to create a newly developed drone optimized for tree planting around late 2022. The company do we stop?
Hello, team.
Was that your final slide?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for presenting. So we'll head over to Q&A then. Judge Lucas, could you please take the first question?
Sure. Okay. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. So one question I had was, could you talk a little bit more about why you feel that this this application is the best extension of what the company's core competence is? So my understanding is that ACSL's secret sauce or the key advantage that they have, the key technologies in the image recognition, in the autonomous flight, rather than actually doing something, it's probably part of their long-term plan. But as you look at their current portfolio of products and the current set of applications, is this the best natural extension of what they do?
ACSL's, we think that ACSL should choose our plan of implementing drones to tree planting because human-made drones, human-made drones can define the future of nature, and usually drones tend to be seen as a cutting-edge technology that can make our life more convenient. But by implementing drones to tree planting, ACSL can basically save the world for both humans and nature.
Okay, thank you. It's a very creative solution. Thank you.
Judge Keenan, would you have anything to ask for the team?
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much for this presentation. What I did like about it is you guys are exploring new applications. However, instead of a question, I just want to offer a little bit of feedback. The objective of the case study is a little bit more focused on the best expansion strategy. So global expansion strategy. Usually when you go into a strategy like this, you do want to minimize risk as much as possible because expansion is inherently extremely risky. You're entering a lot of new markets. You don't know what the response will be. You don't know what team you have on the ground. And so you've got a lot of risk associated with just the expansion. You've introduced like a new product. So as Vikas said, the core competency is more about imaging and recognition rather than planting, which is a physically mechanical type of product. And so we don't know at all at this point how long it would take for the company to develop a reliably mechanical planting, I guess arm or technology attachment to the drone. So you're adding that to the risk equation. I do really like the creativity, but for me it missed a little bit there. I wouldn't want to do this until, like, for example, if we're going to talk about the US Canada market, I wouldn't want to try a new product like this or new application until we already established ourselves there with something that can provide returns or something that can provide cash flow to minimize our risk. We know operationally we can expand, so we open an office there. We are using our current products. We're already making some money. We have partnerships. We've got channel partnerships. We've got customers, and then we can start testing new products. But overall, great product there. Yeah, sorry, that wasn't a question, but I felt like I needed to offer a little bit of very directed feedback in this case. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for your feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Welcome, Team ID 434. I'm your host, Linda. I'm super excited to hear your presentation. So are the judges. Both judges are currently in the panel with us. So without further ado, please start with your presentation.
Hello, everyone.
And please
You're muted, Margaret.
Sorry. Good afternoon, judges. My name is Margaret.
My name is Hope.
My name's Samuel.
And we're from Morrison Academy, Kaohsiung. This year's prompt revolves around the drone company ACSL, which is based in Japan. We believe that through ACSL, we can create a connected and safe lifestyle across the world for workers and businesses. ACSL currently focuses on implementing drones into modern-day society, and they stress the importance of setting clear goals and using a proof of concept approach to solve them. Next slide, please. So what are ACSL drones all about? Well, first of all, ACSL drones are incredibly efficient. Their simultaneous localization and mapping, most commonly known as SLAM technology, is used to help navigation and enable a faster and more accurate way of mapping infrastructure. These strengths are what allows ACSL to stand out, as most companies don't really have a good SLAM technology. ACSL drones also promote work safety, as their drones can access places that may be hazardous for humans. Drones are a leading industry because they can eliminate casualties within factories through remote inspection instead. ACSL drones also promote an ease of use and allow for autonomous drone inspection in GPS-denied environments. And last but not least, ACSL drones are totally customizable. They are unique, made-to-order designs that follow a rigorous test of concept approach and are suitable for many applications.
Next slide, please. The key issues that ACSL is facing is its inability to globalize. Due to their focus in Japan, they're late to globalization, and many companies have already established a global brand such as DJI or Tespri. ACSL also has a lack of partners in the global market, and although their SLAM tech are rare, many companies have not heard of ACSL before. ACSL promotes high customizability, but it's not specialized in any area. It promotes both software development and hardware development, but it doesn't give the buyers any strong impression of their specialization. Also, due to the lack of international customers, ACSL is not well known in the international community, and people are more likely to buy from bigger brands. The rapid growth of the drone market introduced many new companies into the market, which can provide more challenges for ACSL to globalize. Next, Hope will be explaining the overview of our recommendations. Next slide, please.
So here's a basic summary of how we recommend ACSL to overcome these issues. First, to help ACSL promote their drones, we propose that they partner with other companies, specifically those that focus on manufacturing drones. My teammate Sam will be further explaining this later. Basically, partnership will help enable ACSL to avoid poor market acceptance, better execute their proof of concept approach, overcome difficulties of being in a foreign country, increase their influence. ACSL would just have to provide the plans. We've also examined markets in China, Sweden, Switzerland, Italy, UK, and others, and decided that there are two markets that are most beneficial for ACSL to enter. The first would be in India, going into the logistics industry with warehouse drones. ACSL has more advanced tech and also promotes mobility. My teammate Margaret will be explaining this later too. The second is in Canada, going in the area of inspection. Canada's large oil and gas industries, as well as lack of experience in this field, will provide ACSL an advantage. Now, my teammate Sam will be explaining our first recommendation. Next slide, please.
First, we recommend ACSL to partner with IdeaForge, a drone production company based in India. They have an annual revenue of $3.7 million and funding of $10 million. IdeaForge specializes in drone hardware production for inspection drones. They have in-house research and development, manufacturing, software development, training services, and operations. ACSL needs to find a manufacturing partner in a foreign country due to how inefficient it is to only manufacture in Japan. It's also better to partner with a local company, or it'll be hard to understand the local market. IdeaForge has worked with the Indian government to produce defense drones, and they are the recipients of Marico Innovation Foundation Award. They're also named the best product design company by IESA, and they feature multiple drones with different sizes and uses. IdeaForge's drones generally have 20 to 60 minutes of flight time, depending on the model. And their HD camera will pair well with the SLAM technology to expand into the Indian drone market. I will now hand it over to Maggie.
Next slide, please. Our second recommendation for ACSL is that they enter the logistics industry in India and expand into the warehouse and drone markets. The development of drones in India has led to an increase in competitors such as UAV Propulsion Tech and Idea Forge. India has the fastest growing drone industry in the world, which has resulted in many manufacturers investing a lot of money into the development and production of UAVs. The expected growth of the warehousing market is projected to be worth around 38.39 billion US dollars by the year 2024. Also in India, warehousing accounts for 25% of the whole entire logistics industry. Currently, there is a growing demand in the market for drones that local companies are just unable to meet. Next slide, please. Recently, the passing of the India Drone Policy 1.0 has increased the trust between buyers and companies, further increasing orders. India's drone industry is on a rise, and ACSL can take this opening as an opportunity. A major advantage that ACSL has over their competitors is that they're more experienced, technologically advanced, and have more resources. There are very few drone making companies that match ACSL in its software, and there's a relatively new drone market in India, as startups lack experience and do not fully make use of the current demands. We recommend ACSL to look into this as there is less competition in the logistics and warehouse inspection sectors. And due to the recent events of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a major increase for safe social distances between people during work, a problem that ACSL can solve with their drones. I'll be handing this over to Hope Yang for recommendation 3. Next slide, please.
Our third and final recommendation for ACSL is that they should market their drones in Canada, going into the area of industrial inspection. First of all, most of the competition in Canada is centered around the commercial industry, so using inspection drones will actually help avoid this issue, such as we can avoid companies like ING Robotics, SkyX, and Drone Delivery Canada. There is also an advantage from having a relatively new and experienced drone industry. And at the same time, there's a solid supply chain to help achieve parts. As of now, there are 8 companies in Ontario alone that specifically supply UAV. The next question would be, if there is a supply, is there a demand? Our answer is yes. First of all, industrial inspection is applicable over almost every industry. Also, there's a sizable oil and gas industry in Canada, as they are the world's 5th largest producers, so there must be a demand for inspection drones. Next slide, please. So as mentioned above, ACSL has multiple advantages if they enter the field of inspection drones. They have better technology, more experience and more resources, and do not have a lot of competition. Their autonomous GPS-denied drone software will give them large capabilities advantages. And also, the foreign companies with better technology and more globalized branding will not be selling inspection drones usually, which means that there will be less competition in this marketing. Another benefit of going into the new drone industry in Canada is that the government is also trying to promote the use of UAV. This means that they have established certain channels to help promote them, such as the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, that helps establish a connection between drone companies and potential buyers through hosting forums, conferences, networking events, and the likes. Lastly, it is important to address that drone inspection is more effective than other substitutes, as there are certain environments that are just not possible for people to access and inspect or are too hazardous. Inspection drones will be a better and safer alternative. It is for these reasons that we think ACSL should take their inspection drones to Canada. Now, my teammate Sam will be concluding our points. Next slide, please.
In conclusion, in order to achieve globalization of ACSL, establish a clear direction for our buyers, and to compete with international UAV companies, we recommend ACSL to first partner with Idea Forge, a hardware company for drones based in India. It will help ACSL expand into India's drone market. Next, enter the logistics industry in India with warehouse drones, working with a hardware and a warehouse company to establish a global presence. Lastly, enter multiple inspection industries in Canada with the use of inspection drones. Through these recommendations, we hope that ACSL will be able to better promote the brand and spread their drones around the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll just start and offer a comment. I wanted to commend you all for, I think your presentation, there's only so much you can cover in 10 minutes and a few slides, but you really got to 2 very important issues. Number 1 is the scalability issue for the company. That is indeed a very big challenge for them. And number 2, I think you get what the company does, what their key advantage is, and where they are lacking. So well done on highlighting those. Also, I think the two countries you have chosen geographically make a lot of sense, especially in this moment. Canada and India in particular are among the countries trying to shift away from Chinese drones. I know India for certain, but US as well, and you can use perhaps the base that they might establish in the US to extend it to Canada. So Kina might have a question, but I did want to commend you on that. Very, very well thought through, and you get what the company does and what they need to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, great. Fantastic. What I did like about your presentation here is that you very clearly understood the issue for the company as a whole. It's this challenge of globalizing very late. A lot of the other major drone companies have basically taken and invested significantly in globalization efforts. Okay, so that was a very good starting point. I have two questions. The first one has to do with IdeaForge. Obviously I don't know anything about IdeaForge, but from what it seems like, they directly compete in some of the very core competencies with ACSL. One being customization, and so there's the hardware and the software portion, right? So as a company, they've got the hardware, I don't know what type of software, if they're using their own, if they're using open source, whatever it is. And then they've got the service delivery arm already, since they're already established. It seems a bit too much of an overlap that it kind of wouldn't work in the sense that their strengths are also ACSL strengths. That's the first thing. So I'd want you to expand a little bit more about why you think IdeaForge is a good partnership. And the other one is your approach in selection of the market and application is very focused, which is great. But the application seems extremely focused when entering a market. What would be nice to see is, okay, if we're going to enter this market, we need to see a whole lineup of options and applications rather than this one application for Canada, this one application for India, right? So can you talk a little bit more about that, why you decide to really just focus on one? Because, you can throw out 10 products and maybe, 2 will be highly profitable, and, the Pareto, and it'll provide basically the cash flow and the profitability, and the others may just kind of squeak by, maybe get a little bit of traction. So talk about those two things. Why IdeaForge when there seems to be so much of an overlap? And speak a little bit more why you're so focused on very specific applications rather than a lineup. I mean, the focus of the one application is great, but it'd be nice to see that exact same focus for a lineup. So you do the exact same thing, but like 5 products or applications. All right, sorry. There, go ahead.
So the reason we decided to partner with IdeaForge is first, they're an established drone production company within India. And since they provide the hardware, we're thinking that we can partner with them with our software. Because they don't have the SLAM technology, we think we can partner them by using our software and their local production to be able to sell to local warehouse companies.
To clarify your question for why we chose such narrow areas, are you asking why we chose it or what we would like to follow up with?
Yeah, why was your focus? Because you probably can't just at this on spot come up with other applications. So more of why you think this is a better way to go than bringing to the market and trying more diverse application portfolio.
Because we identified one of our issues as lack of direction. So we thought that if we actually had a focused area going into certain markets, that people will actually know what we're doing, like what ACSL is doing. And then they would so if I want inspection drones, then I kind of know this company does inspection. I just go get from them. Because beforehand, ACSL was they're marketing, they're promoting their high customizability. But then because of that, I think maybe it's harder to have a target audience. So then we thought maybe we should make it more narrowed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome team 9. Let in yet. Okay, connected. Lovely. Hello team 9, ID 519. We are The judges are ready here with you on Zoom, and I'm your host, Linda. Whenever you can, start with your presentation.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, team. You can start with your presentation whenever you're ready. Remember that you're timed.
Hello, team. We're ready.
Okay.
Hello? Can we be heard?
Loud and clear. Yep, we hear you.
Thank you.
Okay. Where is our other?
We are missing a member.
And
Are we just waiting for one more member of yours to come up?
Yes.
Awesome. I think now we have everybody, right?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Please begin.
Okay, ready? Kamusta na po? Kamusta na po? Kami ang Field Dive.
We are Field Dive. Hello, I am Sophia Chua.
And hello, I am Carl Yap. Good afternoon, panel of judges. The main theme of our pitch today is building ideas for the future. Our team recommends that ACSL should first of all build up their connections and network through exhibitions and competitions. Next, they should build a partnership with startup drone tech companies in Singapore, a country whose drone market is steadily growing. And lastly, they should build a branch within Singapore to increase their global reputation. That will be the end goal of our pitch. So we are hoping to solve the issues of a lack of promotion, a weak connection within Singapore, and a need to expand offices internationally. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So I will be going over why we chose Singapore over other countries, as well as give a brief background behind Singapore's market. Following that will be Soy and Kim, who will explain how to increase promotion and reputation through exhibitions and partnerships. Lastly will be Sophia Chua, who will be discussing how to build a foreign branch, the timeline of events, as well as the risks that come with it. Can we go to the previous slide, please? So in our global analysis, we looked at two other countries before Singapore. That would be France and Germany. According to the German Aviation Association, France and Germany's drone markets are relatively high in both the European and global rankings. However, we have concluded that ACSL in its current condition cannot beat the competition in Europe, such as Dell Air Technologies. So we recommend that ACSL build their reputation first, but if they wish to pursue Europe, that France and Germany are potential markets. So why Singapore? ACSL already has contacts in Singapore. According to their chief financial officer, they had already entered the market through stockholders. Singapore and Japan also have similar time zones, which makes communication more convenient between the two parties. In addition to that, Singapore already uses drones for commercial purposes, which makes promotions and customizations much easier for their potential clients. A short general summary of Singapore's UAV laws are that ACSL would need a general permit as well as an unmanned aircraft pilot license. These need to be considered by ACSL before expanding into Singapore. The drone market in Singapore is currently taking off. The government is giving funds for projects that create cleaning and canal inspection drones, and businesses are working together to implement long-distance delivery systems. In the pandemic, there's also growing interest for drones as they have the potential to replace manual labor, to minimize contact among employees, as well as allow businesses to continue without risking infection.
However, in Singapore, there's one major competitor, and that would be Performance Rotors. Performance Rotors is a large company in Singapore, and they have similar technology as ACSL in the sense that their drones can fly in GPS-denied environments. So how can ACSL overcome the competition? Though Performance Rotors may be large in Singapore, they have not expanded to other countries. So by building a reputation from exhibitions, ACSL may be able to grab the attention of Singapore's industries. I will be now giving the floor to Soy and Kim.
Can we move 2 slides? First, we'll be discussing the method. So for the promotion tactic, we'll be choosing competitions and exhibition over social media. People might question, why competitions? Why not social media? We thought competition and exhibition is the best way to expose their drones to the investors and customers rather than promoting through social media. In social media, there's a wide range of viewers of their advertisement, unlike in exhibitions and competitions, where it is limited to people who are interested with their products. In order for the company to promote themselves better, we came up with the idea that why not let them join competitions and exhibitions so that they can expose their quality of drones to different kinds of company. To give an example how this could work is that ACSL once joined convention named Unmanned System Asia last 2019, where they gained investors and customers as well as their stock and profit rise. As most of the company increased in sales, number of investors and customers, and their stock after joining a competition or an exhibition where we can say it is worth it to join. To give a company would be Automodality, where they have joined Genius NY Business Competition, DJI SDK Challenge. After winning as first place in these competitions, Automodality increased in number of global partners such as Intel, DJI, Genius NY, Skyfund, ACSL, and a lot more. As you can see in the slides, those are competition and exhibition that ACSL could join. Next slide, please. Now we'll be talking about the partnership, what we can get and what we can give. Basically, we would like to partner up with companies that have unique technology, have connections to big corporations, simply companies that are win-win situation for both parties. We can give drones with cerebrum technology that they can customize with their software, chance to open their market in Japan as ACSL has good reputation in Japan. In exchange of this, we can get collaborative projects to earn recognition from their partners, especially the large ones, R&D and connections to important industry in Singapore. Next slide, please. Talking about the partnership, to give brief background about 2 companies listed, Garuda Robotics has unique technology named Flex Horizon, where a co-pilot is attached to an Ardu pilot drone, which allows command and control, sends live video footage to computer, and contributes to drones detect and avoid capability. Their major clients are Employment and Employability Institute, Wild Asia, Arif M, and Johor. With Aerolion technology, they have unique technology as laser survey tech and 2D and 3D modeling, which ACSL does not have. And their major clients are YCH Group and Surbana Duro. Now I'll be giving the floor to Sophia.
Okay, next slide, please. Let us now move on to the preparations the company must do in order to establish a branch in Singapore. First, the company must prepare an inventory that will consist of prototypes and materials needed for customization, so that it will lessen the need of constant deliveries from Japan to Singapore. They must also create a team of employees who will be at the forefront in establishing their branch in Singapore. These team of employees must be trained in the English language and on the culture of Singapore. The company must also hire
You've cut out. I can't hear you. Still no audio.
Could another team member help relay on her presentation?
I will be continuing. So for the people, we recommend that ACSL would send senior interim managers as well as R&D engineers into the Singapore branch so that R&D engineers would be able to help customize the drones in the Singapore branch. We also recommend that they would hire local managers and software and hardware developers, as well as engineers, so that they would be able to deal with the clients there. We would also recommend to start training the employees for the language in Singapore, which is mainly English, as well as the culture in Singapore. Next slide, please. So these are the timeline of events. Sophia, is your microphone working? Okay, I will continue this slide. The timeline of events. So from 2020 until 2021, here are a list of competitions that we recommend ACSL to join. These would be beneficial in increasing their promotion as well as their reputation. So examples of them would include Commercial UAV Expo, which will be held online, the International Drone Expo, which will be held in Japan next year, as well as Unmanned System Asia, which will be held in Singapore next year. Next slide, please. So we have identified 4 risks in this strategy. First is localization. Due to the language barrier and differences in culture, ACSL would struggle trying to adapt to a new environment. So we recommend that they hire locals to make this transition much easier. Second of all would be the increased costs of manufacturing due to delivering parts and components. So we recommend that ACSL create inventory in Singapore, as well as find local manufacturers or outsource to make manufacturing costs cheaper. Our third risk is that there would be additional expenses for competition, as you would need to develop new technology for the guidelines of the competition. So we recommend allotting a budget for R&D, as well as requesting bridge funds from government agencies. Lastly, the promotion, as there's a lack of promotional material, we suggest that to complement the exhibitions and competitions, that ACSL improve their online presence. Next slide, please. So there are 2 prevalent technologies in Singapore, and that includes long distance delivery as well as stellar flight. We recommend ACSL try to improve on these. Next slide, please. In their expansion for Singapore. So we were able to solve a lack of promotion by joining competitions and exhibitions, a weak connection within Singapore through partnerships, as well as the need to expand internationally by establishing a foreign branch. So that will be all from us. We can build together we can build ideas for the future. We will now open the floor for question and answers.
Thank you, guys. All right, I'll go ahead and start with a question first. Well, first, a little bit of feedback. You guys recovered from that audio thing pretty well. That was nice. You seem to cover most of the case. I do have a question a little bit on markets. It seems like you basically you said you examined 3 markets. What was it, Germany, France, and Singapore? You examined 3 markets, and you spoke a little bit, and you spoke to a little bit of the criteria in selection. Can you kind of just explain a little bit more about why your focus was very narrow when looking in terms of expansion? That's my first question. The second one is I'm a little bit curious about these competitions. Inherently, competitions are very risky. What happens if you don't win any of them? Or they can also become a black hole. Because when it comes to the core competency of ACSL, customizability is core, which means not specialized. So you're not very, very good at certain applications, but you're able to do a lot of different applications. Competitions mean you've got to be really good. Your R&D investments got to be a lot. And then there's risks and luck that's involved in competition. You can throw a lot of money into it, and then maybe you just don't win anything for a couple of years, right? So speak a little bit more about why you decided to go the competition route, in addition to why you only chose to look at 3 markets.
Okay, thank you for your question, Sir Kinam. I will be answering your first question with regards to our market scheme. Meanwhile, Sophia Chua will be answering your second question about competitions, if her audio is okay by then. So regarding your first question, you asked why was our selection so narrow? Is that correct? So originally we were deciding between different countries, but we narrowed it down. So there was a list in the global case, and we narrowed it down to France, Germany, the US, or Singapore. The US, we found that it, according to analysis from drone industries, that Asia's drone technology is going to reach to Americas. So some so pretty much Asia's drone technology seems to be more advanced than US uses drone technology. So we eliminated US as a potential market. Meanwhile, for France and Germany, we looked into the drone markets for both countries, and it seemed that both were also beginning to see drones as a useful tool in commercial operations. So we decided on Singapore because the ACSL already had connections, and as the reasons we stated earlier, they had already entered the market, they have similar time zones, and it would be easier to promote and customize drones, as Singapore is also using drones for their commercial businesses. Sophia, is your audio working?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for your question, Sir Kinam. So you're asking why we chose to go into suggest the.
We seem to have lost your audio again. I don't hear anything. Do you guys hear her?
No, no.
Somebody else, please take over her question, please.
Actually, I guess that's less of a question. I just want to highlight it's very risky. If Vikas has another question, invite him to ask a question. Yeah, that was more of a commentary on the extremely high risk of a strategy based off of competitions.
Actually, I think in the interest of time, I might have to pause. Is that correct, Linda? Because we have that deadline for 2 p.m.
We do.
Yeah, that's okay.
But really appreciate all the feedback judges have given, and really appreciate Tim for your presentation. Please exit and then remember to come back at 1 p.m. Vietnam.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, judges.
Thank you, judges.
ID 522 team are present. I'm Linda. I'm the host for this competition today, and we have Judge Vikas and Judge Kinam here with us, and they are ready to hear your presentation. So please start. And remember to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, esteemed judges. Today, we're going to be presenting a global expansion strategy for ACSL. ACSL is a unique company in the drone manufacturing space, as they're the only one to be publicly listed. This gives them far more credibility and higher access to capital over its competition. They produce a range of highly customizable and premium quality drones, which include features such as a full suite of sensors, a 4 kg carrying capacity, and the ability to navigate in GPS-denied regions. But while the customizability may be one of their selling points, it is also the thing that's holding them back from global dominance. Therefore, we propose that ACSL streamline the product in a bid to benefit from mass market appeal. Next slide.
We would like to share 3 potential growth markets for ACSL. We would like to share 3 potential growth markets for ACSL consisting of the countries of India, Saudi Arabia, and the United States. In India, ACSL can produce drones for the construction and maintenance sector by moving production to India, as the Make in India initiative can remove the barriers to set up production over there. ACSL can choose to enter the Indian market, and more specifically, the construction and maintenance sector, and benefit from reduced costs through economies of scale and employing highly skilled yet low-cost labor.
In India, moreover, ACSL can also introduce their product to the Saudi Arabian market, more specifically the inspection and maintenance sector, They can collaborate with large oil refineries and product producers using the existing inspection template, allowing for a quick and easy implementation.
Finally, we are also considering the southeastern United States market, where we can provide drones to aid in disaster relief and management. This region is notoriously famous for the chemical and oil spills and frequent hurricanes.
Next slide.
Next slide. With the rise of the technological boom in India, outsourcing the mass production of standardized drones would result in ACSL benefiting from India's highly skilled yet low-cost labor. Doing so will give ACSL more time to focus on their strengths of developing better technologies and would make it easier for ACSL to enter the markets that we're going to talk about. Firms in various industries have started to see the clear upper hand gained by the use of drones. India's drone market, originally dominated by recreational users, has now seen adoption rates of commercial drones increase by 239% in commercial use cases, such as India's construction and maintenance industries. Such a massive spike shows the potential for growth for ACSL in this industry. The application of ACSL's drone technology holds several advantages for managing construction sites or large solar power plants. Aerial surveys by drones not only help with high quality and accurate site images, but also capture data efficiently. Project monitoring and construction sites through quick volumetric calculations and mapping progress against schedules provides real-time progress reports. Solar power is negatively impacted when dust settles on the panel. The use of LiDAR-based thermal technology has resulted in reducing the need for manual labor to clean the panels in hot and adverse conditions. This was not possible earlier with the use of drones, which have significantly improved the safety of sites, asset monitoring, and maintenance. India's commercial drone market is currently dominated by innovative tech startups such as Equinox Drones and AUS. Government regulations require the installation of a NPNT, which is basically a no permission, no takeoff system. The system prevents flight in restricted areas and would result in more development costs for ACSL. To prevent these costs, we have come up with the perfect acquisition. Drone startup Arav Unmanned Systems, or AUS, has perfected the NPNT technology as per the regulations. As ACSL has deep cash reserves of 3.8 billion Japanese yen, buying out AUS's seeded investment of only 78 million Japanese yen will be a relatively easy decision to make. The perfect blend of AUS's NPNT technology and ACSL's patented sensor technology and the ability to carry payloads could represent an ultimate solution to the exponentially growing demands of the various Indian sectors. Next.
Next slide. Another market that ACSL can enter is the Saudi Arabian market. Saudi Arabia is one of the largest oil producers in the world and a leading member of OPEC. They also have over 1,200 kilometers of oil pipelines spanning the entire country. So this would provide a huge growth potential for ACSL. We propose that they introduce the mini drone to satisfy this market. They would also have the advantage of being the first AI-based inspection technology in the market, putting them leaps ahead of the competition. Currently, the only competitor in this market is the fellow Japanese drone manufacturer, Terra Drones, who lags behind ACSL in technological specs and don't have a large presence in the market as they have just recently entered it. ACSL drones would obviously have the USP of being using AI inspection, AI-based image recognition to notice leakages in the pipeline system. And also they have the ability to navigate in GPS denied regions. This is especially suitable for the oil pipelines as they're known for the remote locations. Additionally, we would propose that ACSL partner with local inspection companies like TISA to gain a better understanding of the market. These companies already have an inbuilt customer base, allowing ACSL to hit the ground running. Overall, Saudi Arabia is a market leader in oil production and and has been known to be early adopters of new technologies. This means that they can use Saudi Arabia as a stepping stone to the entire oil production market, providing huge markets for future expansions. However, it is important to note that this is a sunrise industry, and we would have to provide a proof of concept. And there will also be risks such as not knowing the possible market size in the sector and the profit margins. Next slide.
A key market for ACSL to penetrate is the disaster management market in the Southeast USA, especially because Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, offers hazard mitigation and preparedness grants for which we can apply. Moreover, the incident and emergency management market was valued at $97.73 billion in 2020 and is expected to reach $137.84 billion by 2025, with a CAGR of 6.03% during the forecast period 2020-2025. Emergency situations are highly unpredictable. It takes intense planning, time, and human resources to recover from crisis situations. In such a scenario, emergency response times are a vital component in speeding up the recovery process. Governments are increasingly trying to develop intelligent mitigation plans to minimize the response time and damage caused by both natural and man-made disasters. However, there is fierce competition in this sector, with companies like Flymotion Unmanned Systems already operating in this space. They have the added advantage of meeting the strict regulations set by the US government and will have an inherent advantage. Moreover, Flymotion has a range of drones starting from 500 USD, a price that we will find difficult to compete at.
To conclude, looking at the three options presented for ACSL's global expansion, we would suggest that they actually enter the Saudi Arabian market, as it's a new industry and has untold potential. Moreover, there isn't competition present there, which ACSL can use to their advantage. We would also propose that they start outsourcing production of the standardized drones, which they would be selling in Saudi Arabia to India, while keeping the customizability factor for production of high quality drones and maintaining the existing business model in Japan. We came to this conclusion looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each market. And we can't ignore the fact that both the Indian and the US market have fierce competition, and both countries are going through a recession due to COVID-19. So, due to the high saturation of these markets, we think Saudi Arabia is ACSL's best bet. Thank you.
Thank you all. Maybe I could just start with a quick comment and a quick question. The comment, I think this is truly a global expansion strategy, or at least you consider different markets and true extensions of what the company does. So good job on that. I also think that the focus on inspection in Saudi Arabia, that's quite creative. I had a call with Reliance Industries last week, and if you look on the Reliance Geo website, drones is something that they're very interested in. And as you know, Aramco and Reliance are getting closer. So there's a natural extension there going from Saudi Arabia to India. But the question I had was just on the production. So as you know, one of ACSL's business model strengths is the outsourced production and the local partners that they have. If you use Saudi Arabia as your key market, do you feel that there is local production capacity there that is scalable? Or will you use somebody nearby? Or was the plan to use production in Japan and then shipping it over to Saudi Arabia? Can you comment on that, please?
So ideally, we would like to move production to India, as production costs are relatively high right now. By doing this and using the standardized template, we think we can drive costs down, giving ACSL an even bigger advantage. Honestly, we haven't looked into production in Saudi Arabia, They're not known for their drone manufacturing, so I can't really comment on that. But yes, according to our plan, we would outsource to India.
Okay, okay, that's thoughtful. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, that was it covered a lot of bases. I did like the specific focus on current applications and core competencies. I'm a little like if you're presenting to me and if I were making a decision on which markets to enter, what I'm still lacking that I'm looking for here, and what kind of is raised as a red flag is that you did mention that Saudi Arabia, the drone market is very, very small currently. It's very young. It's a nascent market, and there aren't really competitors. There's no AI drones, and even with drones, you mentioned, I think it was the Terra drones, or maybe that was a different market. But overall, you're saying there aren't really competitors, and it's a nascent market. What that tells me is either a couple things. One is maybe it's regulatory and legal. Maybe that's a risk there that I'd want to ask you guys about if you guys looked into that. Another one also is it means it would be incumbent on ACSL to build that market, kind of like a first mover. You have to invest quite a bit. We have looked, so in the case packet here, there are the financials of the company. Now the company doesn't have that much in terms of cash to build and invest in a market. So can you discuss and kind of explain your thoughts on that, why you chose to build a new market as opposed to enter a market where there's demand but lack of supply, for example?
Yeah, so we do realize that it's a new market, but Terra Drones has already laid down the groundwork for there being for the implementation of drones in inspection of oil pipelines. And moreover, during the COVID-19 pandemic, multiple officials in the Saudi Arabian government have come out to say that they want to increase the use of autonomous vehicles and AI-based technologies in all sectors of the economy because they want to reduce risks of the spread of COVID-19. So we think we can use this to our advantage. So we would basically be using the government itself to promote ACSL because this is one of the factors that they're looking for currently. On this note of regulation, so for inspection, the drones would have to be relatively flying relatively low. And that's why we actually proposed the ACSL Mini. So there aren't too many restrictions in that aspect. And as you know, I'm sure you're going to bring it up that the Mini only has can only withstand speeds of 10 meters per second. But again, in the Saudi Arabian market, this isn't a problem because the average speeds top out at about 8 meters per second.
Great, thank you.
For your response, and then we're gonna end our presentation. Team 10, I think you will be able to stay here because we're letting everybody else in.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
All right, and the winners are finally drum rolls. Go ahead, Kevin. All right, the winners are team ID 302, Robert Edward Jacob, Santos Embos, John Lester Agulia Moroso, Angelina, and Amir. And the second winner we have Samuel, Margaret, and Hope. So I'm so proud of everybody here who has presented today, and huge congratulations to the winners. And great job, everybody. You all did a tremendous job, as I mentioned before, and I'm so proud of everybody here. Being here presenting such a sophisticated case on Saturday, it shows determination, it shows grit, and it shows a lot of your intellectual curiosity and just vitality. So great job, everybody. And we thank you so much again for joining us for this very hughly competitive competition today. And huge thanks to Judge Vikas and huge thanks to the both judges that attended our competition today. And without further ado, I will be able to that support will be able to end this section, and this two winning team, they will be preparing for the road to the global final round October 8th to the 11th to represent the A and Z region. All the recordings of this region presentation will be sent to you by email on Monday. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Everyone's presentation was great.
Thank you.